This is the President McCormack Podcast with your host, Mark McCormack.
Welcome to the podcast, Jade Frehner.
Thank you. Good to be here.
We've been doing this with all the guests, where I'm like, hey, we're going to do an awkward 4 seconds. And it's funny because I say it's awkward, and I actually feel awkward for a minute. I'm like,
yeah, you just kind of look around the room.
But the editing guys get on my butt when I go straight into it because they can't fade the music in and make it sound real good.
Yeah.
So, well, man, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, you bet. You bet.
First
Glad
podcast?
I made it. Yep.
Yeah. First
podcast ever. So, like I was telling you before we started, feel free to delete it if you need to.
No, it's funny how many people feel that way. I had one guest, man, and really good friend of mine, and he was like holding onto the chair, and he just looked like he was about to like explode. And I was like, "You good, man?" He's like, "Oh, I'm so freaking nervous, dude." Mm-hmm. I'm like, "Hey, my 7 listeners, dude, are gonna go crazy over this episode."
No. Hey, I found you, so I don't know you directly, but I found you and been loving it. Loving it. A lot of good content.
So, which was the first episode you listened to?
So, I think the first one I listened to was of Jeremy Neves, and I don't really know him directly. I know it's his brother-in-law. Yeah. But that's kind of one thing that attracted me to your podcast is you kind of talk. It seems like you talk to a lot of people in your realm as far as business owners and higher up people that have leveled up.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's, I want to do and try to do. So.
Yeah, no, it's funny when I look back at the guests I've recorded, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a little bit of a smorgasbord of like different people.
Right.
I've actually done 2 of my daughters. I've released 1 episode with my 7-year-old, which that one was going to be interesting, right? Because I was wondering what she would say, Yeah. I think we went for just shy of an hour.
Oh, wow.
So I actually grabbed these cards, or like get to know you cards, and so we would ask them to each other, and it was pretty funny.
Well, that kind of seems kind of cool that you interview your daughter, so you kind of get to, I guess, get to know her, but also have it out on recording for a long time. That's cool.
Yeah, and that's kind of my thing with this whole podcast is it's kind of like my video journal.
Yeah.
So I just bring on people that I like or are friends with or want to have on, or just it's kind of the realm I'm in. I sat down when I first started. I was like, okay, I'm going to write down every person I think will just come on the podcast if I ask them to. Right?
Yeah.
And once I hit about 300 people, I was just like, okay, we'll just start doing them now. Like, I was just going through my phone, right? Like started with the A's, and I just had all these people that I could just bring on, and I just knew they'd say yes. And it's interesting doing a podcast because you're like, I wonder if people are going to like this.
Yeah.
Especially people that don't know you. Everyone that knows you loves it, right? They're like, oh, greatest thing ever.
Well, yeah. I mean, I kind of indirectly found you through some of my coworkers, and just I liked it so much, and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to add you or as a friend or request, and then I'm going to shoot you a message, just tell you how much I liked it. And then you responded, which I thought was pretty cool. And then you were like, hey, do you want to be on the podcast? And I was like, oh, I shouldn't have messaged him.
I'll tell you why I did that. It's, I don't do that with everyone that says something to me. Okay. Right. But every now and again, I just go, it'd be interesting to have someone who doesn't know me on the podcast.
Yeah.
And kind of see what your thoughts and opinions are and where you came from. And because I feel like if you want to listen to this podcast, there's a business slant to it, right?
Right.
There's people and they'll give like business advice. It's really good. But I don't want to like bring the like president of a bank on just because he's a president of a bank. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to bring people on that are like in all stages of life, like, well, I did this, I went to college, and then I did this, and I worked for this company. And I would like younger people, if they're listening to this, to kind of go through that process and go, oh, I don't just have to go to college and become a lawyer or a doctor.
Right.
There's, thousands and thousands of other occupations and pathways that people can take.
Right. Right. That's kind of what happened to me. I just went up to school, actually went to several colleges. But man, I could never like really figure out what I wanted to do. And so I just felt like I was wasting time and also money. Yeah. And that just bothered me.
How far down the road did you get?
So I pretty much got my associates. Yeah. But I have more credits than that. But I just had a hard time, like, I guess, staying in my own lane. And I had a hard time paying for school when I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was raised just go to work. Like my dad never went to school.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah.
What'd your dad do for a job?
So he worked for a power company.
Oh, cool.
So I'm from Mesquite, Nevada. So he worked for Overton Power Company for 30 years.
Nice.
And man, I'd see him get up at 4 a.m. every morning, and then he's home by 2 because it's so hot. You know, there's no point of working in the heat that long. But definitely see how it took his toll. Like his body just, like, one of the things I listened to on your podcast actually was about retirement. I liked it, and how you talked about, like, I got to a point I don't realize I didn't really wanted to retire.
Yeah.
And I agree with that because my dad retired, and he kind of, I wouldn't say he was lost, but he just didn't have it really planned out.
Yeah.
And so I think you age really fast.
Right.
Really fast, yeah.
See, I would agree with that 100%. Is your dad still around?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Almost every person I've seen retire, if they don't go and do something that keeps their mind active, you know, their health really goes.
Yeah.
Right? Because which is kind of sad too, because I feel like that generation was kind of sold a bill of sale, right? Where it's like, be a company man, work for this company, you know, save some money, get Social Security, have a 401k, you can retire, you know, you can golf every day. And, you know, I think the reality of that is none of those people actually want to do that. And like with me, I like to travel now because I'm like super healthy, you know, and agile, and you know, if something goes wrong on the vacation, if I ended up sleeping on a park bench or whatever. Right?
Yeah.
Not that I'd ever let that happen. But you know what I mean? It's just like, whatever. It's just kind of an adventure, you know? I think when you're in your 60s, man, it's like, you got to be like on these tour groups, and you've got to like, you know, I don't know, take your pills every morning. Yeah,
like opposite side of the spectrum. My wife's grandpa, he's in his 90s, and he still goes to work every day. He owns a construction business, and
oh, nice.
He does that. You know, he's from Duchesne area, so he's a kind of an old farmer as well, and just like, you wouldn't even know that he's in his 90s.
Yeah, he looks young.
So it just
what construction?
And I've seen that Superior, Buck and Steel.
Oh, okay.
So I think he was involved in creating I guess they called it the window buck, you know, way back in the day, and they did really well with that.
Nice.
So instead of using the different forms that they had. So anyway, yeah.
So what was it like growing up in Mesquite? You know, for Utah boys, it's the place we go right before we hit Las Vegas.
I know. Usually when I tell people I'm from Mesquite, it's usually like a pause, and they're like, I didn't really think someone lived in Mesquite or from Mesquite. We usually just stop there for the buffets, you know. So no, it was great. I mean, that's all I knew. Small town. Like my graduating class was probably around 400. So it actually baffles my mind talking to people that come from, because that's all I knew, right? So I'm like, oh, I know so and so and so and so, and my wife's from Riverton, so she went to Riverton High School. And I don't even know how many is in her class, but I'd be like, oh, did you know everyone? Oh, no, I went to my graduation, and it's the first time I've ever seen someone in my, and that kind of is like weird to me that it's that big that you don't know everyone. And it kind of bothers me. Like, even if I didn't like know you or like you, I still like, not know you, but if I didn't like you, like still want to get to know you and see how you tick. But
so in high school, what did you guys do for fun down there? Like dirt biking and stuff like that?
So dirt biking, I did every sport. So football, basketball, baseball is what I kind of did. Now looking back, I'm like, I wish I would have golfed more because there's so many golf courses. But camping a lot, quite a bit. But I mostly was just sports. I didn't do a lot of dirt biking, to be honest, because we didn't have it. But
where did you guys go camping at?
Just out in the mountains of Mesquite. There's always
kinda
back roads.
Like east to west kind of? Yeah.
Or you could go the back way actually to Lake Mead. So we went to Lake Mead quite a bit.
Oh, okay, cool.
Do the back way.
Is there a lot of polygamists down there?
No.
I don't think so. Okay.
Mm-mm.
So I think when I was a kid, I was told that there was, you know, as you're driving north on I-15, right?
Yeah.
And you look out to the west or the east.
Yeah.
And like, there's kind of like, I don't know, the foothills and then the mountains, right? And
Yeah.
it's like a long run up those. Well, I was always told growing up, it was probably by some idiot friend, right? That's where the polygamists live.
Yeah.
And I think they were mixed up because I think they thought it was Colorado City.
Oh,
You know?
I
And so
see.
they just had their geography off.
Yeah.
So it was years and years where I literally believed, I'm like, yeah, there's a ton of polygamous guys here, you know? It was more like a matter of fact kind of thing more than.
Yeah. I mean, Mesquite was more, I guess, talking to religion, LDS than anything. Not so much now. Like, Mesquite's grown a lot since I've left. I haven't lived there for 15 plus years, you know?
Yeah.
But no, it's grown a lot. In fact, like, I didn't even have a middle school. I went to elementary, kindergarten to 5th grade, and then they had a high school. So I was at the high school from 6th grade till you graduate.
Wow.
So
That would be a long time.
yeah. So you just have these little 6th grade punks, you know, to the seniors. We're like, get out of here. But
Yeah. Ah, cool. So if you were playing sports, where'd you guys play? You wouldn't play St. George and stuff, would you?
we'd play Dixie here and there, but they're not in our conference. We'd travel. We'd play, as far as Utah teams, we'd play, like in baseball, we'd play Kanab, we'd play Panguitch. But as far as Nevada, we'd actually have state championships, usually up north, like near Reno. Yeah.
Oh, really? That sucks.
So we played a few Vegas teams, but
So you did go into Vegas.
so we did go to Vegas. We went to, like, Pahrump was in our conference.
Okay. Yeah.
So we played Pahrump, and then in between Vegas and Mesquite is Moapa.
Mm-hmm.
So that was Moapa Valley Pirates, which is Overton, basically where Lake Mead is.
Yeah.
So I think we were 4A, which for Utah is, let's see, if we were 4A for Utah, that's like 3A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. So how'd you meet your wife?
So I was living up at Utah State with actually a buddy of mine from Mesquite, and he introduced me to his cousin. Mm-hmm. So, and I was, at the time he introduced me, I was doing some summer work, and I was 25 at the time. I was doing summer work in Pittsburgh, and he called me and said, "Hey, I don't like this guy she's dating. You guys should date." So we kind of matched us together. And so we actually talked on Skype at the time, just so I made sure she was real.
Yeah.
For about 4 months before I actually met her.
Oh, cool.
Like, met her in person. So, and then we dated ever since and got married.
Nice.
So,
And you had 4 kids?
so we have 4 kids.
What's the oldest?
Right now, oldest is Graham. He's 9.
Yeah.
So I've got 3 boys and a girl. And all 4 of them, we never found out the gender. So that was actually really fun for me, to not know. It's actually pretty spiritual. It was actually kind of spiritual experience, not knowing, and then being in the room when my wife delivers, excuse me, and being able to see it and announce to her a boy or girl.
Yeah.
It's actually really, really cool. A lot of times people, when we tell people we didn't want to find out the gender, they're like, "Oh, I don't know how you could do that. I don't know how you could do that." And I was like, "Oh, easy. My wife doesn't know. She can't spend money."
True.
But no, it's just kind of like, well, my parents never found out, and we didn't have any real reason why we didn't. We just chose not to, you know. We're not really big into the whole gender reveal thing, I guess. And anyway, it's just kind of the lane we're in.
So on the nursery then, did you just make it kind of gender neutral?
What's that?
The nursery was just gender neutral?
Yeah. Yep.
Cool. Throw a splash
Yep.
of blue in there.
And we kind of picked out some names on both, you know, boy and girl names that we liked, and then kind of waited till we saw him or her and decided what kind of fit.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's really fun. Really fun.
It must have been. I mean, you did it 4 times.
Yeah.
You know, so.
That is really fun for me.
That would be kind of cool. I mean, I've had 3 kids, and it's those are just interesting days, man. Like the very first one, you know, watching your wife get pregnant, get big, you go to the hospital, you know, like it's like a weird life experience, and you're almost in a roller coaster though, right? Because you can't stop it. Once you start that train, it's just like, oh my gosh, and then next thing you know, you're holding the baby, and then a couple of days later, they're kicking you out of the hospital, and they're like, "Good luck."
We talk about that all the time. Like, they're just like, "Hey, see," and you're like, "That's it." Like, you're like trusting us to.
Yeah.
And then you look around, like we look around now, we're like, we've got 4 kids and we're responsible for them. This is crazy.
Yeah, it's wild.
This is crazy. Yeah.
So you didn't finish college. We talked about that. Why not? Let's dive into it.
Well, I'm just school in general isn't a passion of mine. Like I do like to learn. I am passionate about like, hey, knowledge is power. But school, I had a hard time with, I guess, I don't know. I don't have a hard time with authority. That's not it. I just have a hard time with, like with college, you're going to school and you need to, if you don't know what you want to do, which that was me. I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do. I just felt like it was a waste of time doing generals because that wasn't something I wanted to do. I didn't want to, I guess, go through. So the whole process of it, I just struggled with school. And I ended up finding, I actually had a buddy of mine who was doing, he in the summer sales, and he was looking for technicians. And so I ended up doing work for an alarm company, and just kind of was making good money, and decided that, hey, I'd rather continue with a career than go to school and try to figure it out when I'm just, I guess, wasted money. So.
No, exactly. And that's, I've talked about in the podcast, and college has its place.
Yeah.
But 90% of degrees are worthless. And I don't know, I've been saying that for probably 10 years, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny, my brother Brett, would like get me in situations with people who like are really heavy on education, right?
Yeah.
And he'd like lead me down the path to start bashing on college, right? And it was like his favorite thing to like tease me with, because I'm just like, yeah, it's freaking stupid. What's the ROI on that?
Yeah.
And even last night, 2 nights ago, I was out to dinner with my wife and 2 of her friends that had flown in to go to this girls' weekend, right? Uh-huh. So we went to this like nice restaurant. We were sitting down, and they're both from out of town. They're like, "What is Westminster?" Right? And I was like, "Oh, that's like a Utah thing. It's like people think that they got a Harvard degree if they go to Westminster. Like nobody outside of Utah knows what the hell that school is." And so we were like joking around. They're kind of laughing, and they're both. I think they're both college educated. Pretty sure. I know one is. But as I'm kind of bashing on Westminster, right? The girl at the front, the hostess was like, she goes, "Yeah, I went to Westminster." And I go, "Oh, you did?" And I was like, "Oh shit, she's going to light me up." And she goes, "You're 100% right.
Yeah.
It's just really expensive." And I'm like, "Did you like your education?" She goes, "Well, yeah, but I like learning, but I don't like the debt that I'm in." Right.
Right.
And she actually had a master's degree. She had an MBA.
Oh, wow.
Now, she looked pretty young, so I'm not sure how far out of college she is. I didn't get too deep into it with her, right? Because it was time to go. But I remember sitting there thinking, like, dude, you have an MBA and you're a host at an Italian restaurant? Yeah. Like, I know right now your ROI doesn't make any sense. And I think that's my biggest issue with it, right? Yep. And I'm a supporter at UVU, right? I support their basketball team. I've served on multiple boards, And I don't think that people are bad that are in college or anything like that, but like you do need to understand it's a business. Right. They're happy for you to go there for 10 years. Right. And our stupid government is happy to just loan you money to forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Yeah. And it's just like, I feel like an adult needs to come in the room and go, "Hey guys, you can't have, interpretive dance degree and take that and go get a job with it. So either these are the careers that you have to choose, and that's where this is going to lead you, or let's get you into something more, applicable and give you some skills to go out in the world."
Well, I've seen that firsthand too, because I actually have a twin brother, and he went to BYU, and he finished, he got his bachelor's, he ended up getting his master's, and he'd apply for jobs, and it's back to what you're saying too. It's like, oh, you don't have the experience, and so it's hard for him to get a job, even though he has that piece of paper. And here I am, and I decided to stop, and I, am doing pretty well, and so I agree with that. But I mean, to each his own as well, as far as with their own lane, because there is benefits of, I did like the networking aspect of, like, Utah State was, incredible. I had come from UNLV in Vegas, which was fine, and then I go to Utah State. So not only drastic weather changes, so that was rough on me because I'm a desert rat, going to feet of snow. But Utah State's cool in the regards of like it's a college town, and I'm a big sports guy. And going to the basketball games, and football wasn't really that big when I was there, the years I was there, but like going to basketball games and like it's fun, it's cool, and just like to network with people. I still talk to people or network, and in fact, that's how I feel you can gain a lot of opportunities just in the business side of the world is through those like, kind of experiences. So
yeah, I have a friend who does really well, and he went to Chicago Booth, got his MBA over there. And we've gotten this conversation a few times. Yeah. And he's very smart. His MBA, he got an MBA from Chicago Booth. And if you know much about them, I'm pretty sure they're a top 5. They're a top 10 business school for sure. About them. Okay. Yeah. And so, but we talk about where the real value is, right? Because I was always going to go back and get my MBA. Yeah. It's been a part of an agreement I had with my dad when I started running one of his businesses.
Oh, nice.
But I could never go because it's like, I don't make any more money. These are super expensive. And really at the end of the day, and this is going to sound arrogant, but like, am I going to learn anything?
Right.
You know, there's one thing to like not make more money, but learn a whole bunch more skills, right? Yeah. So you can eventually make something better. But I don't know. Every MBA friend I have is coming out of there. We're just like, yeah, I don't know if I learned much, man. Like,
and then they're in debt.
Yeah, then they're in crazy debt. But I know a lot of them, their companies were paying for it. You know, it's kind of like their barrier of entry or opening the gates. You know, but my friend's like, he goes, dude, it's all about the networking. He goes, that's why the Ivy League schools are important. He goes, you don't get a better education at BYU versus Harvard. You just don't. Right. It's all in the network that you're there. You know, and then that paper, you know, a Harvard degree obviously carries a little bit more weight when you go to an interview, but. Yeah. But honestly, even here in Utah, though, like if there was a BYU graduate and then a Harvard graduate going for the same salary, and say the salary was less than what the Harvard guy should be getting, you're going to toss the Harvard guy. Yeah. Just because, you know, they're going to want more money later on, right? Then, you know, the BYU guy is going to like understand the market here and not like think they're worth, you know, $500,000 in salary know, at 28. Yeah. You know, it's wild.
So did you ever finish?
I did. I have a 4-year degree.
4-year? Cool. That's cool.
Yeah, my degree is in paralegal studies. I got into law school.
So law? Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was going to go to the University of Texas Tech or whatever that is. Yeah. For law school. But yeah, my story is I got in and my dad came to me and said, hey, I want you to help me run the family business for a little while. So I gave him a list of like 10 or 11 things that I wanted him to do if I was going to do that, which was pay for me to go get an MBA, which he agreed to do. But by the time it was time for me to go, I was pretty much running the entire company. And then, and then I ended up buying it. So
did you just curious on my side, did you run that, like, was he your mentor, I guess? Did he show you the ropes, or did you, with your experience, you already knew how to run a business?
No and no.
Okay. Yeah.
My dad was, he was a mentor for sure in certain aspects of things, but not in your traditional, like he never like pulled me to the side like at work and was like, hey, let's go over like financials and like, hey, let's go over like sales strategy and like the upper level stuff. He was a brilliant designer. And then he's a Scottish immigrant. He came to here when he was 18. So cool. I'm first generation American. Cool. Yeah. I love telling people that. I'm the whitest first generation American CNN will ever show, you know? But, so I mean, there's definitely things growing up and like his work ethic and some of his personality and stuff I still kind of use for the company culture. But no, a lot of it I just kind of figured out on my own. I mean, my dad, his way of training is kind of like, yeah, here's your position, go figure it out. Yeah. So like, for example, he asked me if I'd be basically like the COO of the company, right? Basically be in charge of project management and the shop. And when he announced me to the company, he announced me as president of the company. So I just started running it like 26 years old or whatever. So
okay, cool.
Maybe even 25. But actually I was 25. But it was good though. But I mean, looking back, I kind of like that that's the way I was trained or whatever, you know. would sit with our accounting. I would sit with our purchasing. I would just learn it all.
Yeah.
And so in my 20s, it was a lot easier for me to like just be a sponge of every single thing I wanted to learn. We hired a consultant during that time. And so we had a consultant there for like 9 months, a really high-end guy. And so, yeah, that's kind of where my business acumen was birthed.
That's what I always wonder at now is because I went on a mission. I came home. I lived in Vegas. Actually, my older brother lives in Vegas. I think he did it just for me, just to be like, hey, what are you doing when you're coming home? So he ended up purchasing accounts from a pest control company. And so we just ran a pest control company together in Vegas for a little bit, which, side note, he named it Bug Raiders because he thought, there's a lot of, I guess, Hispanics in this area that love the Los Angeles Raiders or the Oakland Raiders at that time.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like his marketing strategy. And then we ended up selling it a few years later. And then the Las Vegas Raiders came to town. And so he kicks himself because the Raiders were in Vegas now. And the guy he sold it to was just like, man, thank you so much. I get calls a lot just because of the logo, kind of a thing. But that's what I wonder about as far as like, so here I am, I kind of learned business firsthand a little bit, just kind of thrown into it. But it would have been nice to have, like, we both started at the same time as far as being business owners. Yeah. It would have been nice to have kind of, I guess, a mentor to lean on for a little bit till you kind of get your traction kind of a thing.
Oh, I think if you can get a mentor over a college degree, I mean, you'll win every single time.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer. I think people don't know. Here's another thing with mentorship too, though, is I don't think people know who to make them their mentor.
Yeah.
Right. Because you can't go to Instagram and find the dude that's jumping on his private jet, right?
Right.
Like, that's not your bro. Also, he doesn't own that jet.
Right.
And so I think people get a little fooled by the flashiness of that.
Yeah.
And it's like, what you need to do, if you want to be a business owner, right? If you decide that, hey, I want to own businesses, that's my path in life.
Yeah.
You need to go find a small business owner who's doing $5 to $6 million a year in revenue. Start there and like learn everything about that business and learn how he ran it or she ran it. And because you can see it on a real micro level there.
Right.
And you'll see it's like, well, I don't really have HR because we can't really afford HR and, whatever. There's 6 employees. I don't need to have someone ask them how they feel every day.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, and then all the way up, right? And if you can find a mentor that's like grown a business from, nothing to 50 million and that kind of stuff, like that's where you need to stay.
Yeah.
You don't want to go work for some massive national company because you're just going to get lost in the shuffle. There's no real mentorship there. And really, if you want to start your own business, you're going to start at the beginning anyway. So you might as well meet the guys that started at the beginning and they're like, 5, 6, 7 steps ahead of you.
Yeah.
You don't want to talk to the guy that's 200 steps ahead of you.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when I hear like, I don't know, like Jack Welch and those guys kind of speak. Like they have good knowledge, but like it doesn't like apply straight down to people.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Have you ever had a mentor in your life?
So actually right now I'm, that's kind of how I found you a little bit is, so right now I'm in a mentorship, trying to learn, basically grow my own real estate investing business. So
nice.
More on, I don't know how much in the weeds we get into, but like transactional lending kind of a approach, also learn more of the creative finance side of things. So I'm in the process of being mentored and kind of learning that realm. It's completely new, but it's also, I'm big into like that space as far as believing in real estate and
how long have you been doing it?
Just a month.
Oh, first month.
So yeah.
There you go.
I'm new, and I've made mistakes along the way as far as just being an investor. I invested in a restaurant that was actually a successful restaurant, and they had a new location opening in Salt Lake, and ended up getting kind of burned from the owner. He ended up, I won't say any names, but he ended up, his business was great. He actually had one up in Logan and one in St. George.
Yeah.
And he was hands off on those restaurants. On this one, he hired a general contractor to help build out the space, and he decided he could do it himself, kind of a thing. And so he was just like pouring money into it and didn't let the investors know us. And I had, collateral on the line. And anyway, but.
So are you out of that deal?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So got out of that. Well,
Did you walk away?
No, I was already tied in that deal. Like I put collateral from my home, kind of a thing. And so we lost a lot of money because he also, it was me, another, like a doctor had collateral from his properties. And then the gentleman I'm talking about who, kind of did some shady stuff. He had collateral, and then I didn't know it at the time. He sold his property, put a little bit towards, because it was an SBA loan kind of a thing. And then me and the other doctor once the business shut down, we got left with the bill from the SBA loan. So.
Oh, word.
So
let's dive into the details of that a little bit. You don't need to say names or anything, but so anyone that's listening to this, where did that deal go wrong?
So in multiple places, like I'm all for taking blame on my side of things. So I was a new investor, but I took time. I felt like I took time to look at his business model. I saw the pitch deck. I saw his current restaurants doing well, making money. So there's blame on my side, but I think where that business model went wrong is he tried to do everything himself and not doing what professionals in that lane can do. Like a general contractor knows, hey, he has a deadline. He knows when to get stuff done. Yeah. And this guy didn't understand, like, hey, if you don't meet the deadline, you're still having lease on that space. You have bills to pay, and you're just going to be further along if the restaurant doesn't even open. Because the restaurant ended up opening, and it was actually doing pretty well in sales, but it was almost too late at that point. And then COVID hit, and then it's just a snowball from there. So,
did COVID shut it down?
That's what they claimed. That's what he kind of crutched on. But
did it shut all three restaurants down? Or just
the other two are up and running and doing still really well, really well. So
that sucks.
It just kind of sucks. But
so when you were underwriting that deal, you're looking at the pitch deck, kind of looking at other businesses. Like, what would you have done different now?
I mean, I wouldn't have put my home as collateral. Yeah. But at that time with my finances, it was almost like I didn't see it. You know what I mean? Out of my account. Yeah. Kind of a thing. I wouldn't have put as much. I would have done more research, I guess, and took more time. I did kind of rush into it as a new investor, and that's why even now, like, I'm more due diligence on. In fact, I think I told you. I guess we're involved in one of them together, but the meat packing plant. So.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I just think I wouldn't have been an idiot, basically, and just take more time and understand that, because I was new. Yeah, is what it comes down to.
Well, you also need to. You kind of have to have some losses. Yeah. To have some wins. Yeah. It sucks. I mean, hopefully you didn't get like obliterated by it, but but it's interesting, right? Yeah, because we're in like this meatpacking plant deal. Yeah. How you liking that?
I mean, I know it's up and running, and they communicate really well compared to my first investment. So, I mean, I haven't got any distributions yet, but I feel good about it as far as the people that are involved in it, I guess.
When did you invest in that one?
What's that?
Do you remember what month you put your money in?
I put it in November of last year, 2022.
Yeah,
because it was literally like the last hour before I could.
Really?
When I found out about it, so yeah.
At least I think I put mine in like October.
Did you?
So it was like right at the end. I think they only had like $400,000 left when I looked at it, something like that. So, or maybe it was November when I put money in. I can't really remember. I heard about it, but I put money in 2 days after, maybe 3 days after I heard about it. Yeah. So, but the funny thing with me is I've been wanting to get into a meatpacking plant forever.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I've got a friend that owns the Royal Dairy up in Washington. He's a couple episodes back. But he does insane amounts of beef and milk and like everything, right? And so he was going to invest some money in a deal that the deal in my fund didn't actually go through. And so instead he actually built a meatpacking plant on his property.
Oh, wow.
And he's killing it. He's like, oh, this is the best investment I've made. He goes, I didn't realize how good it actually was. But the investing world's interesting, right? Because it's up to you.
Yeah.
Right. It's nice to hear you actually say it's like, yeah, I blame, part of this, I blame myself. Right. Yeah. And that's, you have to think that way because it's true. Right. You know, it was your money, it was your choice, you know, all that kind of stuff. I mean, obviously it sounds like there's a little bit of fraud going on or some deceitfulness at the very least, you know, but, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to know what to invest in. Do you invest in anything else? Do you have stocks or?
I don't have any stocks. I mean, I've done some crypto stuff, and I also in a startup here in Utah. It's a healthcare, like a virtual healthcare, and they also do medical devices. So they have some hardware that I just
nice.
Pretty much around the same time I did with the meatpacking plant. So maybe I'm kind of doubling down on trying to catch up from some of my losses, which could be dumb because I guess I am from gambling town. So, but I'm also like a risk taker. My wife's not really much. And so that can kind of be hard sometimes, but I also feel like I'm at the point in my life where I don't want to be dumb, you know, but I also want to take action, I guess, if that makes sense. I'm sick of kind of being on the sideline.
Yeah.
So it's kind of where I'm at. Yeah.
So what investments look interesting to you?
What investments look? Mm-hmm. Like, what do you mean? Like
the meatpacking plant versus like buying a rental property or buying, you know, some mutual funds or something like that. Like when you get money in and you're like, I want to invest this money, what's an attractive investment?
So right now, just because maybe I'm around it with my current job situation, so I work with vacation rentals, so I work with a lot of property managers, and I travel from house to house, like big cabins to, you know, I'm in the Smoky Mountains one week and it's like cabin to cabin, and, you know, not to be rude or anything, but sometimes you meet people and you're like, I could do that. Like if they can do that, I can do that. Yeah. So that space is really interesting really interesting for me, is like real estate, buying properties, just like the cash flow if you can find a good deal.
Yeah,
and
you like the short term stuff?
The short term, but not necessarily, well, yeah, probably more short term than long term. I do own with my older brother, I do own a property in Mesquite where my parents live in. And so that's long term, and that's been fun just to kind of help them out as well. But that's kind of what I'm mostly interested in, is I guess the real estate side, owning assets. And I wish I would have started. It's like the whole, you know, you always say, wish you could have known what you know now. I wish I could have started earlier. And
yeah, it's kind of some advice out there to kids, right? When I was first married, so I got married at like 22 years old. Yeah. It's been a minute. It's been like 19 years in June. And we had this guy that was in our little neighborhood. He come visit us, right? And he told me, he's like, I'm going to buy 2 condos every year for the rest of my life. And he kind of like brought this, like planted this seed in my head, right? And I was like, and he explained it to me, right? Paying the loans down and the cash flowing properties, and you know, it was all long term back then. You know, this is before Airbnb and stuff was really a thing. And I remember I went back to my office within, you know, a week or two, and I like just pulled out Excel, right, and I just tried to cash flow that out till I was 65 years old, and I was like, oh my gosh, dude, if you could actually buy 2 condos a year, you know, for 45 years, you know, by the end of it, dude, I mean, you're making like insane, like $1 million a month kind of thing, right? It was like crazy, And then you owned all this property too, right? You know, you own 90 homes or something like that. And, you know, they're all worth, you know, I don't know, $400,000 each. I mean, you've done really, really well. Yeah. And back then it was a lot easier to get into condo. You know, I mean, condos were like $100,000. You know, you can get down to probably $80,000. So if you had, you know, 10 or 15,000 extra dollars, you could be doing this all day. Yeah. And that's one things I look back and I go, dude, I actually personally mapped this out and then didn't do it, you know. I've had some wins, I've had some losses, but like with other stuff, so I'm not like really regretting it, other than it's like, yeah, if you would have stuck to that plan, that would have been a real foolproof plan to kind of roll. So. Right,
especially like where I started with work, it was designed to where I made money up front, and then you had a big old back end check, they called it, after you know, the summer sales. I never sold, but I still had a big old back end check. And looking back, if I could have just took that chunk and put it into a condo, it would have been amazing. And I had people around me doing that. I just was kind of, in your own world, what you didn't know, you don't know. It's kind of a thing. So
yeah, exactly. It's like, but you got to take risks. It's good to hear that you take risks. You just want to take calculated risks.
Yeah. Right.
So how'd you hear about the meatpacking plant?
So kind of through, so I was looking into this other, I guess, investment in the healthcare. They're called Manovo. And I met with the guy, and he actually introduced me to Justin. And because of my failure with my other investment, I ended up connecting with Justin. And because where I'm at right now, I'm just trying to basically, because I had to use you can edit this if you need. I had to use a HELOC, because I had collateral on my home to pay that, so I didn't foreclose on my house. And so my strategy is like, hey, I already have, because I've been in my home for 8 years, I have this line of credit. And now that I had to put a big chunk into my loss, I have extra payments. And so I was looking for something to cash flow. And so anyway, I got introduced to Justin, and the idea is for that to cash flow, and so I can help pay down my other stuff. So.
Nice. Yeah, No, you got to fix it, right? That's the whole freaking thing. Yeah. And then what's your day job right now?
My day job?
Yeah.
So I work for a company called Brevo, and I install.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I install smart home devices. So think of Airbnbs, putting on those smart devices, thermostats, door locks. So I travel all over the country, working with property managers. I either install them, there's only a couple of us to install, or we train their maintenance staff to do self-installs, and then we teach them the software so they can log, history of people coming in and out, vendors, and send codes to doors so they don't have to physically go there and use keys, kind of a thing. Yeah. It's fun.
But that seems smart. It seems like a lot of Airbnbs use that stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, even this studio, walking in, I heard the door unlock. Like, you can do it remotely, without punching in the codes. Yeah. But no, I like it. For me, it's fun to travel. I really like to travel and see new places. So I kind of get my adventure there to kind of get out and go see see new places. And if I'm home too long, my wife's like ready for me to leave.
I was just going to ask you, so with people who travel a lot, because I've had periods of time where I travel a lot, how does that work with the wife?
So it's good now. It's a good balance. She actually traveled with me for 4 years when we first got married, before we had kids, working in the alarm space. And so she understands it, which is really great. I have a really awesome wife that way. She understands my personality too. She knows I'm not a guy that's going to sit behind a desk from 9 to 5. It's just not me. I can't do it. I've tried that. I can't do that. So it's a good balance, because this particular job, I'm probably gone 12 days out of the month. And when I'm home, I'm home, because it's a salary position. So it's nice. So, and she runs her own salon out of our basement. So she cuts hair and does ear piercings and all of that stuff. So when I'm home, I'm with the kids, and so it's a good kind of trade-off for both of us. So it works out really good.
So 12 days of travel, is that broken up a little bit? Or
it's broken up. I'd say I typically will work during the week, like a Monday to a Wednesday or Monday to Friday. I've never been gone longer than 10 days consecutive, which has been nice. I'm usually home weekends, and so it works out. There's exceptions. Sometimes things come up to where it can happen. Like I have a scheduled trip here coming up that I might be gone longer. So, but I'm not on the sales side, which I wish I was in this, because we're like, hey, in fact, I am leaving on Sunday, but for a long time, it's like, hey, Hawaii has vacation homes, like Australia, let's go, let's make a sell.
So where are you going on Sunday?
I'm actually heading to Hawaii, so I'm heading to...
Oh, you are going to Hawaii?
Yeah, so it's going to be... I've never been to Hawaii at all, so I'm excited just kind of... I guess it's the... What is that? You fly into Honolulu Airport, so is that Oahu? I don't know.
Yeah, I've only been there once.
Have you? Okay.
Yeah.
So...
I think so.
But you said you travel a lot. Where do you like to Is there anywhere particular you like to travel, or you just go all over?
I like going to new places.
Yeah.
So we've done a lot of the Caribbean, a lot of Mexico, Europe. I haven't been over to Asia yet.
Okay.
So I'd like to go over there and try that out a little bit. Travel a lot inside the U.S. So my wife and I love New York, so we go to Manhattan a lot.
Nice.
We like good food and plays and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So we normally go in the fall so I can go out there and see some football games or maybe a basketball game or something like that. So it's fun. That's
what I started doing because I'm a big sports guy. Is I kind of had a bucket list of seeing as many. Ended up being baseball stadiums. I'm more of a football guy as far as is what I follow and like followed the most. But baseball is more year round. So when I travel, it's a better percentage to be able to go see a game.
Yeah.
So I think I've been to about 18 or 19 MLB stadiums out of the 30 something. So
yeah, that's
fun to do.
I've got the NFL map in my office.
Really?
I'm like scratching them off, when I go and see them. The problem is you're right that football's kind of a pain in the butt because most games are on Sunday.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you're traveling for business, you either need to like go a day early, or you got to stay like 2 days late, or you got to like wrap a weekend, and it's a lot harder than you think it would be. Mm-hmm. But you're right with baseball, right? You're just in a city and you're like, oh, is there a game here today?
A better chance to go see something.
And it could be at 1:00 in the afternoon too.
Yeah, and it's fun. I mean, I like that atmosphere and sitting down and going with friends or whatever. But who's your team? Do you have a certain team?
My team is the Raiders.
Okay.
In the NFL, I'm actually a season ticket holder.
Cool. Really?
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, I put my name on the list when they announced they were moving to Vegas.
Yeah.
And then I just was lucky enough to be one of the people they called.
Yeah.
So bought the tickets over the phone. Felt like I was getting scammed.
I mean, me and my older brother looked at it when it first came, and we regret not getting in on that. I'm a Niners fan, but because Raiders moved to Vegas, I obviously local guy. I'm gonna follow them and Golden Knights. Like when Golden Knights came, we were like, first, what's hockey? Because like what's this winter sport? But we love it. It's awesome.
The Golden Knights, the city's really embraced them. I mean, big time. We go to Vegas a lot.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of like basketball tournaments down there and all sorts of different things. And in fact, I've got guys there right now because the NIT tournament and the NCAA tournaments, they're playing games. Or I guess they played games yesterday and they'll play some more games tomorrow.
Yesterday and last night,
So, it's wild how much that city has really wrapped their arms around professional sports, because it seems like professional sports teams are like weary of going there.
Right.
I mean, why they don't have an NBA team blows my mind.
Right.
So.
Oh, they're loyal down there though. Like I said, like their first major team was a hockey team, and like it was big and it's fun. Yeah. It's really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So. What's your college team?
For
football.
For football? Well, I mean, because I went to Utah State, I followed the Aggies. College is funny. I didn't really latch on to any team, but in the last few years, it's because of my travels. I actually really like Tennessee, the Vols.
Oh, do you?
So I follow the Vols. Yeah,
that's cool. They're kind of getting back to being a league program, right?
Yeah. I mean, I know back in the day with Peyton Manning and stuff, but I like the Vols. But here in Utah, BYU versus the Utes, I go for Utes. Yeah. I'm on that side. Yeah.
So do I.
Yeah.
I actually love that game because I have so many friends who are passionate BYU fans, and I have super passionate Utah fans. And I just love the banter.
Yeah.
I love firing things up. I love getting pictures of, Max Hall with cocaine on his shirt, sending those over to my buddies, and then taking crap from them. It's just fun, right? It's just such a fun environment.
But I like to player watch too, because I'm a Niners fan. I, love Fred Warner. He came out of BYU. I like player watching too, so it's not always.
Well, if you play fantasy football,
which I do. Players. Yeah. I'm a fantasy football champion this year.
Are you?
No big deal. Yeah.
Nice. I won. Dude, I got so screwed on fantasy football this year. So I won one league.
Yeah.
And my other league, I ended up taking second. So the league that I won by .22.
Yeah.
Right? Because of that last freaking game.
The Bills game. Was it the Bills-Bengals game? Yep. Yeah, that's why I kind of won it too. I probably would have won it anyway, but it definitely was like.
Yeah, see, and I lost in my other league, which is the league I care more about. It's my work league, right?
Yeah, yep.
I lost by like 6 or 7 points, but I had Joe Burrow. you know.
So
so it's like, dude, the guy barely scored less than 40 points all year, and he was on a tear.
Yep. He already threw a touchdown that game already.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was going to be at least 40 points, if not 50 points. And I'm like, and I was like, at first I was like, oh, we'll see how Yahoo handles this. And I'm like, wait, they're not going to do anything. They're just calling it. Like, that's it. And I was like, what in the absolute hell?
So your commissioner didn't do anything to...
I am the commissioner.
Oh, you're the commissioner. So you're like, I lost.
No, I was going to make myself
that's
mad,
true.
Yeah.
Well, good call on that.
Yeah. You just had to let the chips fall. I mean, it is what it is, right? They got the points that they got in the game, you know?
Yeah, my family, we've been big into fantasy football for a lot of years now. We like that. That's kind of our bonding too.
Yeah.
I have 4 other brothers, so that's kind of our thing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So where do they all live?
I got one in Mesquite, actually 2 in Mesquite, 1 in Vegas, 1 in Gilbert, Arizona, and then I have a sister out in Kalispell, Montana.
Oh, nice. How does she like that?
She loves it. And she's like we're all outdoors people, you know, but she's even more. Like, she's better than all of us. She's the first one that'll catch a fish, you know, kind of so yeah, she loves it up there.
Oh, cool.
It's beautiful too.
Nice.
So,
yeah, my wife would love to move up there. We looked at Whitefish, and there's one other area we were looking at because it was kind of up and coming. Dude, Montana's like crazy money. Mm-hmm. It's gotten like out of control. But I think people during COVID were like, if I can work remote, I'm going to move to Montana because it's absolutely gorgeous up there. I
believe it. I do some work in Bozeman or Big Sky area, and that's just growing.
Yeah.
Bozeman, they were like, locals are like, yeah, it's turning too much like they call it a little Los Angeles. But Bozeman's cool. Bozeman's really cool. I kind of like the vibe of Bozeman. So,
yeah, I think I've only been there one time. It's been a minute since I've actually been in Montana, but
yeah,
we've always loved the idea of just having a cabin that's like in the middle of nowhere. You know, you can't even see a neighbor, but that's actually hard to find up there now. Crazy enough. Unless you want to be 2 hours away from like a grocery store or something, which you don't.
You don't. Yeah.
So I got a fun question for you.
Yeah.
What's the best investment you ever made?
Oh, my wife, absolutely. Hands down.
Tell us why.
Well, one, she's beautiful, and I don't know, like, you know, when you meet someone, it's just, she's the one, like.
I do.
Yeah, like, and so I didn't grow up in Utah, and I am LDS, but I didn't get married till I was 26, and it was like, it was kind of like that, felt like you're like the shame feeling, but we ended up dating pretty, not like under a year because I knew I was going to be leaving for work for out of state, and so I didn't want to leave her. I didn't want to have that chance to let her go, kind of a thing, because man, she was just my soulmate, like meeting her right off the bat. So
yeah, she's
just very, can't even explain it really. She's the one.
Yeah.
So.
I'll ask you a very leading question.
Sure.
Right. Because I think I know the language you're speaking. I mean, how important is it to have a partner in life like your wife that like supports you and like really wants the best for you?
It's everything. It's really important, because imagine my job, traveling and leaving all the time, just that alone. Like I still see young couples now getting married and then they're divorced 2 years later. Me and my wife, we just hit our 13th year anniversary. And so I feel like that's becoming like not the norm of people. It's almost kind of like you think about like social media. Everyone's just scrolling through the phone, and then they look at someone else's life that looks so great, and they're not willing to put the work in. Because I mean, marriage is hard. It's not like everything's perfect. Like, I love my wife, but you know, like anyone, you're going to have your disagreements and struggles, but it's very important to just communicate and get on the same page so you can, you know, get past any issues and people, again, people looking at, I think people just get like FOMO or something to where they think it's always better than what it actually is out there, kind of a thing. So
yeah, no, I try and explain it to people because people, will ask me, like, how are you successful? How are you this?
Yeah.
Or why'd you do this? And, and I like to tell people the truth, just give them straight up honesty. Like, yeah, I got real lucky with that investment, and that one blew up. And really though, like a lot of like my confidence and strength comes from being in a good marriage, something that you work really hard at.
Yeah.
And it's hard to like quantify that for people because people kind of hear that and they just think it's a check mark. Right. Like, oh, good marriage. Okay. Check. Buy a house, check. And it's like, no, let's circle back around to have a good marriage. Like it takes a lot of work.
Right.
How
was your wife? Because you said you traveled quite a bit when you first.
She's fine with it. She's awesome about it.
Yeah.
So I traveled a lot in my 20s and probably up to my mid 30s, like almost every week. And so, she almost didn't know any better. So that was a good thing.
Yeah.
And then by the time it was time to not do that as much, it was really easy to stop.
Yeah.
Kind of delegate that off to other employees and not actually go as much. And so, she handled it really, really well. But I also see a lot of guys whose wives, it's interesting to me, like, cause when you travel, you normally get paid a little bit more. They're compensating you somehow for traveling.
Yeah.
And I look at some of my friends through the years or just acquaintances I know, and their wives are like livid if they're not home by like 5 or 6 o'clock at night.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, your boy is never going to make millions of dollars. So by having that attitude, you are sacrificing his earning potential because you're never going to put him in a position where he's going to be noticed or like he's going above and beyond or figuring things out or like spending time at work getting a problem fixed so he doesn't have to deal with it later. There's a lot of that kind of stuff.
A lot, yeah.
I mean, I had one friend, his wife would call him when we would go out of town, like she'd call him every hour. And it was just like, dude, do you not understand how much time you're wasting of his?
Yep.
Yep. And he'd get frustrated with her, and they'd hang up on each other and she would just call him to just say random crap.
Right.
And I've always looked at that and thought, that's not really a supportive spouse. It's almost like a codependency where they can't go for a certain amount of time.
Right.
But there's sometimes I wouldn't talk to my wife for a day or two. Text really helps with that.
Yeah.
So
that's what I was going to say. Text helps. And because I agree with what you said, like my wife, she gets it because she's been out there with me. So I had that going for me. Yeah. So she understood like, oh, I'm actually out there working. Sometimes. Yeah. But like, no, she gets like, we'll check in on each other, but she's not calling me every hour. Like where are you at? Who you with? And there's a lot of level of trust.
Oh yeah.
Like in fact, I joked with her a couple of weeks ago. I was like, you're not cheating on me, are you, when I'm gone? She's like, oh yeah, I'm cheating with you with 4 kids, next to me, kind of a thing. So it's like,
hey, we've been married long enough. You got to ask.
Yeah. She's like, you're the one going to vacation spots by yourself. So I was like, touche.
Yeah. See, the funny thing with me traveling too is, I've had people in my life that are like, oh, you going on vacation again? You on vacation again? Yeah. I'm like, yo, this is not a vacation.
Yeah.
So you have to fight that a little bit harder because you're actually going to a vacation home to install stuff, right? Me, I'm going to like freaking Nowheresville, going to like a big school and measuring it and meeting with a contractor. And like by 6 o'clock at night, I'm either in my hotel room or I'm driving to the next place or I'm sitting in a sports bar trying not to be lonely.
Yeah. And hotels, gets old, everything gets old, right? So it's not as glamorous as you think. Yeah. And flying.
Like, I get so sick of flying.
Yeah.
It's fun, and sometimes like when we go for fun, with like friends and stuff, like it's still fun, right? Get on a plane and like you're going somewhere, and like the anticipation of it being fun. But dude, if it's work, I'm just like, doing this again.
Yeah. See, and my wife gets it now too, because fortunately, whenever I travel, like I'm the one gaining all the travel points, hotel, car, whatever. So she realizes like, hey, when I'm home and we have time, that's how we're taking the kids to go somewhere fun, you know?
Yeah, that's great.
It works out. Kind of a balance there.
Yeah, I've racked up quite a few points in my days.
I bet you. Yeah. I bet you have. I bet you have.
My secret, though, is I have vendors that allow me to pay with a credit card, right?
Yeah.
So, like, my Delta card, man, I get a lot of miles every year just by that.
I bet. And there's all sorts of travel hacks. Like, I fly with Delta, and people don't know, but if your baggage don't come out in 20 minutes, just submit a quick form and you get 2,500 sky miles right there.
Oh, really?
Yep. I probably got about 70,000 extra points last year just for filling out your information. It takes 1 minute.
Can you do it on the app, or do you got to go into?
You can do it not through the app, but you can find it. Baggage claim. It's just like a form, like a link you click and you fill out a form, and that's it.
Dang, that's a good tip.
Yeah. It's fun. I'm like, that's extra points right there.
Yeah. And they just, I have this conspiracy theory right now with Delta, and I'm pissed.
Yeah.
So I'll look up a flight. So say I want to go to Europe, right? And I want to book it with points, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'll fly first class with the wife. See how many points this is. And normally you get those, and it's like 300,000-400,000 points, right?
Yeah.
And then I'll come back like in a week and put in the same parameters, right? Or maybe change it up a little bit, and then it's always, dude, like 200,000 more. Now we're in the 600,000 range, and I'm like, well, maybe it's the time, so I'll kick the trip another 2 weeks, and it just kind of stays there.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, dude, I feel like you guys jack me with this every time because you know I'm going to go on this trip because I've looked at it twice, and then you up how many points it costs.
I actually agree with you because I've had conversations with other coworkers, the same thing, or someone that's never looked at it and it's showing different. So I agree with you.
Yeah, I tried to upgrade. We're going to Spain for the running of the bulls, right?
Oh, nice.
In July. And I bought the premium plus seats, whatever. Like, they're not the lay down ones, but they're like the domestic first class ones. Because the tickets are like $10,000 each, right? And I'm like, what the freak? And so I go to like upgrade into first class just to see what it would cost, right? And they're like, oh, you can't do it. We're sold out. So I log on my desktop and there's like 16 seats up in the front. And I'm like, what the hell? So anyway, then a couple of weeks go by and I look again, and now it's like $5,000 a ticket to upgrade. And I'm just like, oh.
Yeah.
It's the points game.
I agree. Yep.
Yeah.
It can be frustrating.
I mean, first world problems.
I know. It's terrible. So my wife was this week because she's like, oh, you're going to Hawaii, you got it so rough.
You don't understand, babe. It's a 5-hour flight. I'm uncomfortable.
Because that's what I do is I'm like waiting to get upgraded to another seat without having to pay the point. So anyway,
I play that game sometimes. Yeah. So have you got up to like Diamond Medallion yet?
That's where I'm at this year. Okay, so good. That's where I'm like, I'll purchase something and just wait for him to hopefully bump me. If you
normally get bumped up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do too. I kind of throw a hissy fit when I don't, though. In my mind.
In your mind.
I'm like, oh, I should just pay the extra $200. Like, this is so stupid, like. But I'm also, I'm 6'7", 320 pounds. So like, I get caught in a coach. Like if I fly back east, I pay for it every time.
Yeah.
Right. If the flight's more than 3.5 hours, I pay for it every time.
Yeah, it's worth it. But, especially,
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. It's like my back hurts if I'm stuck back there, and then everyone's looking at you like, please God, don't sit next to me. And I'm like, hey. This will be fun. We will be touching. I'm sorry. But flying for work is just an interesting thing, right?
Yeah.
So how do you like your current career?
I honestly, right now where I'm at, maybe that's why I'm trying to not be so comfortable. Like I'm comfortable right now because I've had years of experience, like actually the physical work that I do. But I do like the space of it. So like I like where I'm at, but I'm definitely got that itch, like I was telling you before, where it's like, I gotta do something else. Yeah. I gotta just continue to learn and grow because I'm kind of, I guess, an introvert. I'm not going to go out there and like I need to be more like on social media presence and put myself out there more because I know I can. Yeah. It's just more of a on that aspect, but I like my career. It's safe. It's a safe career right now, but definitely looking for other avenues to explore. So
I think getting into, the real estate rental game that you want to jump into though, it's probably a good idea. Yeah. Especially if you love it.
Yeah.
And you probably have, do you have access to some of the owners of the rental homes? Mm-hmm. So talking to them, right? Using them as mentors is
that's what I've started to do.
Probably invaluable, right?
Yep. Because it's all over, so I kind of get to see how markets are all over the country, and so it's really fun.
Yeah. Do you like the Smoky Mountains? You mentioned them earlier.
I love it. Honestly,
I love that place.
I love it. Like Smoky Mountains, like that whole area is like really cool. Like Tennessee in general, like if we didn't live in Utah, me and my wife talk about it all the time, we'd probably be in Tennessee, or even like North Carolina is cool. Like the Appalachian Mountains, it's kind of the same as Smokies.
Yeah, we went to, my kids are homeschooled, so they were learning about the Carolinas, and so we took a trip out there last spring break.
Did you?
Yeah, so we went to North Carolina, we flew into Asheville, and then we went out to...
Did you go to Dollywood and...
No, we didn't do that. We went
that?
to the Biltmore.
Okay.
And then we went out to South Carolina. We went to a couple of museums along the way. NASCAR Hall of Fame.
Oh, cool.
That was actually really cool.
And that's in Charlotte? Is that in Charlotte? You remember?
Maybe.
I can't remember. Yeah.
I can't remember. Yeah. A little bit of a blur. We went out there for like 8 days, but like we stayed up in the cabins up in the Smoky Mountains like the first time. Then we head back to the coast, and we ended up on the beach, for a 3 day.
Yeah.
3 days on the beach, which was really fun. Yeah, I mean, we saw a lot of stuff. My wife was kind of driving the where we were going to stuff, and so
I love the Smoky Mountains, and there's some cool cabins in just remote areas. It's really great, and that place is growing too. Yeah. And
it seems like it's pretty easy to get around too, right? Like big wide roads, very simple,
not too bad.
Yeah. Sometimes you go to these places like hard to find where you're actually going.
Yeah.
Even with GPS, it's wild.
Yeah.
So
I love that area, and the people are great. I just think people in the South, I just think are great.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of the reasons I would like to move out there, is just like as far as raising a family, because so I'm from Nevada, and so we'd always tease, oh, we're not Utah,
Yeah.
We're Nevada or whatever, so like we can do things different. So I want my kids to experience like more of diversity and more different cultures, and not just like, I guess, the LDS bubble. Yeah. Like we are LDS, and I love it, but I just want my kids to like grow up in Nevada. We had friends that weren't, and I think a lot of times there's a lot of judgment to that. So I don't want my kids to. I just want them to have more diversity and be more open-minded, kind of a thing. So
have different conversations and different experiences, and learn to love more. Yeah, I can see that.
And the people out there are great. Yeah, they're great.
I like the South too. I like I like the older ladies that still want to mother everybody. Right? It doesn't mean no matter what race, right? They're all the same. It's just that. Get on over here, honey. Blah blah blah. Like I love those ladies, and they love me. They love feeding me, and so every time I meet them, it's like a smorgasbord of just freaking whatever they want to make. And that Southern hospitality is like a real thing, And so, I'm a big Texas guy. I like Texas a lot, so I love the people down there. I took my wife down there. I've been talking about Texas forever.
Like a certain part of Texas, or in general?
No, I just like Texas in general.
Okay,
so
cool.
I like each individual place. They're all different, right? So I go down to the very tip, Brownsville, Waco a lot, or Weslaco, and love the people down there. A very Hispanic flavor, and it's a great place to be. But then I've got people I love in San Antonio. Like I love going to Austin. Austin's super liberal and weird, but fun. And it's a totally different vibe than everywhere else. Houston's a totally different vibe.
Yeah.
Dallas is interesting if you've ever been up there. It's kind of like old money. And
I've mostly been to Dallas as far as Texas, and then Galveston once, but I haven't been to
I've been to Galveston.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting place.
Yeah.
Been to El Paso a few times. Not my real favorite place of everywhere. But I don't know. I haven't spent a lot of time in El Paso. But you got Juarez across the border, and it's interesting. Like it's like where oil and water mixes, It's like that border, you have like affluent America and like poor Mexico, but there's all the warehouses are over there and manufacturing plants.
Right.
That's a wild place.
Austin is where I want to go visit. I've never been, but I've heard good things. And then I did just finish the book of, have you ever read Green Lights by Austin? Yeah. And I liked that just because it's kind of talking about that space. Oops.
No, I'm with you, dude. Green Lights was a good book.
Yeah.
That's Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, I loved it just because I listened to it. So he was doing the own narration, so it was kind of fun. It was really good.
I can't stand books if the author doesn't actually speak.
Right.
I don't like the page.
And he's such a storyteller, and I love that. I'm like, I wish that's what I need to learn, is how to become a storyteller or even a speaker. And I really like that about him. So
yeah, he did a good job. He's kind of one of those guys that's lived an interesting life, right? Remember the part where his dad died having sex with his mom?
Yes. I mean, the first part of the book where he's talking about his relationship with, like, his mom and dad's relationship to each other. Like, they're all doing circles in the kitchen with a knife. Like, it's
wild.
Fun. It's
wild. So hopefully there's a next life that those guys can laugh about that. It'd be freaking funny. I'll tell you, man, if you look at heaven, though, and you take this, like, one funny experience. Yeah. It would be really, I mean, you got eons and eons of time, right? That you can just be like, you did what when you were down there? You know what I mean? Just like, I did this and that, and craziest stuff happened. It'd be wild. Talking to guys from, like, 600 BC, 600 AD. Right. So many different.
You did what? Yeah.
Oh, you lucky buggers. You lived in the year 2000 or whatever. Right? We didn't even have freaking salt.
Yeah, electricity. Exactly.
Yeah. So it'd be fun. Well, my friend, we're coming to the end of the podcast, so went pretty quick, right?
Yeah, that's a lot faster than I thought.
So the people need, I need your best 2 minutes of advice.
Best 2 minutes. I think, in my opinion, I think it's good. Like, my advice is just be a nice person. Just be. I was thinking about it on the drive here. A song came on. I like listening to music, like probably most people, and I'm really into country. And the Tim McGraw song came on, "Be Humble and Kind," and I'm like, you know what? That's true. Like, if you can just be humble and kind, more often than not, where is that gonna steer you wrong? Yeah. Just so. I think my advice is just to be aware of other people around you and try to be just a good person. And I mean, we all get caught up in our daily routine and lives, but take some time to not think about yourself as much as you can, and, call a friend you haven't talked to in a while and reach out, because I think it goes, it won't go unnoticed, kind of a thing. So I actually think about that a lot, is just try to be a good person, be humble, be kind, be respectful. And then opposite side of that, I mean, this is what I'm trying to do personally, is don't wait. Try to live in the moment now and take action. And I mean, that's not just for business. That's on all sides, on your family side, on your personal side. Like, tell someone you love them, cry if you need to cry. Like, just be more present, I guess, would be my advice.
Oh, excellent. So. I think we're on the same wavelength with that. I've had a lot of conversations, because I'm in that men's group, and we talk a lot about just taking every day and not waiting and being present. Being present's a big deal. So that's excellent advice.
Especially now, with everyone glued to their phones in their face. So.
Oh yeah, and the TV and the news and I mean, there's a lot of distractions.
And I'm guilty of it, but just try to be better every day. Yeah. So.
Well, my friend, thank you for coming on the podcast.
You bet. Thanks for having me. Yeah, nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you too.
Thanks for listening to the President McCormack Podcast, brought to you by McCormack Foundation, Saxton Fund, ADP Lemco, and Professional Floor Systems. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and keep up with Mark on Instagram @President McCormack.